My game prototype is about a week away from being ready for testing, and it has been for the past 2 months. Recently I made a video walking you all through the basic outlines of how my tutorial dungeon works, and that was supposed to be one of the last steps, a video showing off how it works, and while that video goes live I have some time to do a little bit of polishing, and then the next video that goes up will have a link for people to play the prototype. And yet here we are, with still no download link in sight. So how is that possible? Well, I could hand out playable links right now. Everything in the game just straight up works. Enemy combat, platforming, the boss battle itself, everything functions. They're all a little rough around the edges, but they work. And yet, I couldn't help myself. If I wanted people to get a good feel of what the whole game felt like, which I think is important for getting valuable player feedback, I needed more than just a over-glorified block mesh. So I replaced all my temporary assets with ones that are closer to what the eventual game will be like. I added some decorative assets. By no means are they finished, but at least there's something now. And since I have a background in film, I couldn't help myself from making a couple of small cutscenes to make the tutorial just feel a little bit more dynamic. And well, that was the biggest slap in my face I could have ever gotten. Now that I had to make cutscenes with a character in it, I was going to need to figure out the best way to actually create that. Should I really animate my character as a whole thing in Blender and then export those animations as segments to use in Unreal Engine? But what if an animation doesn't quite work out with the framing that I want? What if I just want to rotate the hand a little bit more to make for a better composition? I'd have to go back into Blender, try its new position, export it, re-import it, and check it. And that whole process I likely have to repeat numerous times for almost every animation in the cutscene. So instead, I opted to learn how to set up a control rig in Unreal Engine itself. It took me an hour or two to get it all done, but now I have one character all rigged up in Unreal, and I found to my surprise, it felt a lot better working with that than I was used to animating in Blender. Maybe it's because I actually set up the whole rig manually, maybe it's because setting up a rig like this feels more intuitive to me compared to how it works in Blender. Either way, that led me to deciding that I wanted to make my in-game animations for this character in Engine as well. So the walk cycle, the attack animations, and so on. Since Blender exports often do real weird stuff when importing animations into Unreal. In Blender, this animation looks just fine. But in Unreal, it's suddenly clipping through itself for some reason. And honestly, I'm just kind of done with that inconsistency. I honestly don't know if it's a Blender issue or if it's an Unreal issue. It could be exporting, it could be importing. But really, I don't care. All that I know is there's an issue, and there's 2 points of failure in that workflow pipeline that I can eliminate by just animating things in Engine right away. And on top of that, I found that the actual animation work itself goes a lot more smoothly for me personally when I do it in Unreal compared to Blender. But now we get to the real issue, because for the most part, the animations that I've already got made aren't that problematic. They are for the enemies, and I'm not going to re-rig and reanimate them just to prove a point. That would be insane. They do what they need to do, and I don't really foresee a reason for them to need extra animations, so I'll just keep my hands off of those, at least for now. But my player character, now, there is a problem. You see, I have the whole basic moveset for my character animated. Movement, jumping, okay, no, I actually do need to reanimate the jumping animation, but I do have all the basic attacks done. The only issue is that the whole point of the game is unlocking and using different weapons, all with their own need for specific combat animations. So while I have every animation that I need right now done, except jumping, I'll have to get to that at some point, there's easily about 40 or 50 more animations that I will need to make for this character over the course of the development of this game. And if I want to move over to animating everything in Engine, I need to set up a control rig for my main character too. Which isn't really an issue, except for the fact that I'm using Blender's built-in Rigify skeleton, which is a goddamn mess, and to be honest, kind of overcomplicated for what I needed to do. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to make a new skeleton for my character, which renders the animations that I've previously made more or less useless. I could retarget them onto the new skeleton, but let's just say I don't have the highest degree of confidence in how that's going to work out for me. And besides, now that I need to re-rig and reanimate the whole damn thing anyway, it gives me a valuable chance to fix a very dumb oversight that I committed like a year ago by now. That being, I can't animate the weapon separately from the character. You see, the weapons are directly parented to the same bone that controls the hand of the character, meaning that I can't actually move the weapon out of the hand of the character, or even have it rotate inside of the hand. I purposely didn't model any detailed hands for this little guy, so that way I could get away with some tricky little animation shit, and then I didn't actually give myself the option to use that. So I've been hating myself for that decision ever since, and when I decided to move from Unity to Unreal, I figured maybe this is the time to fix that issue. But of course, rewriting all my code for the whole game in a different engine took so much time and effort that I didn't fix it anyway. So now, after all this time, I actually get a good chance to fix it again. It's just going to be a lot of work. So hold on to your patience a little bit longer, because the prototype is getting there. I just need to reanimate this whole damn character and polish up about a million different tiny things, and then we're there. And the best part is, after all that, I'll likely need to do a lot more work based on player feedback from those initial tests, before I can even think about moving on to the full game and getting a full vertical slice out, letting alone the game as a whole. This is gonna be a whole ass journey. But hey, if you want to come along with it, there's a subscribe button down below this video to keep you up to date with the development of this game. And also, I do make tutorials based on my own findings as I develop the game. So, I mean, it's free to subscribe. Why wouldn't you? And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,